how much is it going to cost me to replace them, and how long do I have? No one knows exactly how long they're going to last, but welcome to our show today. I'm going to be talking about real estate, a potential money trap. Long story short, I'm involved in a lot of different groups. Some that are about real estate investing, some that are about real estate in general, and a lady who I think wants to get into real estate. She had asked the question, "What is it that I can do to be involved in real estate?" She's like, but my husband, he's afraid that it's going to be a money trap. So I guess the big question is real estate a money trap? And the answer to that question is, it depends. It depends on the kind of real estate and then really the property that you end up picking. So here's a couple situations where it probably would be a money trap. A lot of folks will say, hey, I really want a house where I can add a lot of value to it, and I'll have a bit be a fixer-upper, or I'll stretch to where I buy this house where I know I probably can't afford it. That's where it ends up being a money trap. So in general, when we're doing cash flow analysis and when we're looking at your net operating income, you want to take a look and see what are some of the items that you're going to need to be paying, right? So everything has a lifespan on it. So your furnace, depending on what kind of furnace, which is a big reason why I always recommend a home inspection. I mean, your AC, your water heater, your roof, your foundation, all those things are things you need to look at. So you really minimize your risks by doing things like a home inspection that I went to today. And there I was able to see, okay, cool. Looks like all the appliances are good. Looks like the washer and dryer are good. Looks like the roof is good. It's going to last me another 20 years. Looks like the furnace, even though it's 10 years old, it's probably going to last me a good amount of time if I'm doing the furnace or if I'm doing the filter changes on time. The AC, as long as I'm making sure I do the maintenance that I need on that, will probably last me a good amount of time as well. The water heater, if they have the runoff valve, if they have the expansion tank, are those things are certain things that make the water heater last a little bit longer. So those are other factors you need to look at. Is what are these items that I have in there, my appliances, my capex items that I know are eventually going to be, they're eventually going to die. So how much is it going to cost me to replace them, and how long do I have? No one knows exactly how long they're going to last, but by seeing them and having an inspection done with a good inspector, they can give you a decent idea of, hey, well, historically this brand has lasts a good amount of time if you do the maintenance on it and if you do da 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 da. So those are all things you need to look at. And on top of that, you want to look at your vacancy rates. So I'm here in Orem, Utah is where I'm at. Utah County tends to do pretty well. So some folks are like, oh yeah, your vacancy rate almost anywhere is the best way to keep your vacancy very, very low is to make sure that you have very clean coordination between your current renters that are leaving and then the renters that are going to be going before. So if you have your 30-day notice, maybe by week 2, week 3, right away you get working on getting new renters in there. With a lot of the properties that I managed for my dad, we were able to keep our vacancy pretty much at zero. So we'd do like a little open house, we'd get people and rental applications, we'd get everything set up. So the day that the other people moved out, we could get people moved in. So it keeps our vacancy rate very, very low, which keeps the money out of pocket very low as well. And then again, also you need to look at the area. So again, here in Orem, Utah, we have BYU that has 30,000 students. We have UVU that has 40,000 students. There's a very big demand for studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, even 3-bedroom houses, apartments. So those get taken very, very quickly. Whereas if you have a house that has an 8-bedroom, most people don't want that. And on top of that, you can only rent to one family in a single family home, or 3 non-married singles is what it is in Provo and Orem. Cities like Pleasant Grove allow you to rent to 4 non-married singles. So there are also different regulations that you want to look at there. And again, you want to look at what is market rent. We typically charge about $50 below market. So folks think it's a good deal. We get a lot of applications. We can be very picky with our tenants. And we have tenants who are going to take good care of the place. Also, mitigating your losses there to make sure that you have people who aren't going to trash it. Another way to make sure that you don't end up with, something that ends up eating a lot of your money. So the long answer is this, is maybe it can be something that ends up taking a lot of your money, or maybe not. It really depends on how you set everything up and what the right structure is for you. As an answer to that lady, I would say, honestly, if you work with the right person to help you find the right property, and if you follow the right system, and if you buy the right property, then honestly, you can keep your expenses on those things pretty low. And even the expenses that will come up, you can already budget some money aside for them beforehand, so you don't end up having any unforeseen issues. Just an example on a property that my wife and I are buying right now. This one was built in 2004, and looking at it, there's a certain amount of things that are going to last an okay amount of time. It has a Bryant furnace. Those are really, really good brands. They're going to last a long time. Looking at it, it has some newer appliances. The roof is about 15 years old, but it's a 30-year architectural shingle, so it should last a good amount of time. Yes, it also has a basement apartment. Again, a lot of the appliances there are going to last for a good amount of time. So as we're looking at that property, we're definitely thinking, okay, cool. In the future, we are probably going to need to replace that, but we may have about 10 years. So let's set aside, if a furnace is going to cost us $4,000 to replace, $6,000 to replace, we think it'll happen within 10 years. Let's just say $5,000 for easy math. In the next 10 years, I should probably be setting aside $500 a year. And that's $40-something a month that I want to set aside for these big expenses that come up. So for each house, you have different quantities that you set aside for. For a lot of them, they keep it around 10% is what they have. It's kind of the average. So 10% of what the rent is. So if my rent is, say $2,000, then I want to keep and set aside $200 a month for those expenses. If you do that, then you can keep your expenses managed and keep them as low as possible, and do the other things that we spoke about in this video. Then there's no reason why these properties need to be eating up a lot of your money. On the contrary, they're actually going to be working for you very, very well. It's just setting the right expectation at the very beginning and then following through with the processes. You can't get sloppy on what you're doing. You're like, oh yeah, well, we really need to rent it quickly, so let's just rent it to the first guy who comes through the door. If you do that, then you really, really increase your odds of having a bad renter in there who isn't going to maintain it, who, if there's a leak, he's not going to tell you about it, and it's going to cause more issues in the house. There's a million different things that can happen there, but if you follow the right steps, it becomes very easy. If you guys have any questions on what some of those right steps are or some of the processes are, I went through some of them earlier on in this video, but feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help out with those. And then I can give you the rental application that we do, the lease agreement that we do. I can show you the whole process on how we get good renters into the places. And one way or another, ultimately our goal here is to help people out one way or another. And if we end up working together, super happy about that. If we don't, I'm still happy to make sure that you're bettering your life using real estate, because I think real estate is a phenomenal tool for that. And again, thanks for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, reach out. If you can go ahead and like our page on Facebook, you can follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn. More than happy to connect. Thanks so much, and hope you enjoyed the show.